What happens when your body suddenly refuses to cooperate? When standing, eating, or even sitting upright becomes a battle? Welcome to It's Both. I'm your host, Nikki P. And today I'm joined by Grace Steele, a traveler turned patient advocate whose life flipped almost overnight. After more than a year of symptoms, confusion, pain, and being told it was just anxiety, Grace fought for answers and was ultimately diagnosed with cranio-cervical instability and POTS. Her story lives in the bothness, where there's fear and gratefulness, limits and progress, dismissal and self-advocacy. In our conversation, we explore what happens when your nervous system won't cooperate, how to advocate when you are dismissed, and how to hold both hope and heartbreak at the same time. And a quick note before we start. I just want to say thank you so much to Grace for being with us, because recording this was no small thing. Grace spent real limited energy just to sit and talk with us today. So let's jump in. Welcome, Grace. It's so good to see you.
It's good to be here.
I am so grateful that you're here with me and just really honestly excited to get into the conversation today and to hear your story and for others to hear your story. Before we get into all that, I was hoping you could just tell everybody listening a little bit about who Grace is.
This one's always kind of a hard question, but I feel like when I think of myself as a very adventurous person. I used to always travel a lot. I would even join like random Facebook groups for like female travelers, and you could go like couch surf and things like that. I would like to think I'm a very empathetic person, but I guess we could ask my family and friends what they think. But yeah, I feel like it's a good and bad thing, but I feel like I just feel things deeply. I'm a very clean person.
Okay.
I feel like I maybe am mildly OCD, but yeah, most of my family knows that. I love going to a farmer's market on a weekend. I love tea, and I'm kind of a tea snob. I never really liked coffee all that much. Tea was kind of my thing.
I love it. This show is all about the bothness. You can feel, you can experience all these different things all at once. Tell us a little bit about your story and how the bothness has come up in your life through that.
I will say, especially when it comes to this, like I really do want to do this condition justice, because I've been like immersed in this world that I really didn't know anything about before all this. And it's like, you can't unsee now what you've seen before all this. I mean, I just worked as a graphic designer. I was always trying to get remote, and I finally ended up getting remote work. My family all lives away from where I live, so I currently live in Arizona. And the nice part about remote working is I could go home and actually visit for months on end. So I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I would basically be some of my nieces' roommates for months out of the year. And then beyond that, I mean, I feel like I was a bit obsessed with traveling, but it just was something that I feel like I accidentally fell into. I was like, this is really fun. Like I like who I am when I'm doing this. I like all the people I meet along the way. So it kind of just started becoming a big passion of mine. And that was a big focus a lot for me, was how many places can I go? Kind of just pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Like I really liked that because I grew up in a very small area. And I feel like growing up, I didn't feel like I had a large deck of cards of things I could do with my life. And through working and interning and all this stuff, I met people who really inspired me, and they would encourage me that I could do more. And I think as I started doing more, I would realize, wow, like I am capable of this. And then I'd try something a little bit more scary than that each time. And that's kind of how I got into my whole solo travel era. Yes, a big part of my life. I am married, and my husband, he also works and travels a lot for his job. So it kind of works out. Like we both kind of can travel around and then also meet up at places. We have obviously our home base, and I would be here a good bit of the time, and he would too. But we got used to a good amount of time apart because he was in the military before all this. So he would do deployments where he'd be gone at least 3-ish months.
Wow.
And we just kind of got used to that lifestyle. So that's kind of what our life was like.
So that was before.
Yes, that was before.
Yeah. All right. What happened? What came into your world that changed all that?
So I feel like my story's kind of odd because there were many moments, even years ago, leading up that things were changing, but they weren't particularly things I could have controlled. So I brought up like when I first moved out here, traveling around to visit my friends. And one of my friends at the time lived in Montana, and I went out and visited her, and we got into a bad car accident. And yeah, it was late at night, highway situation. So we were going quite fast, like 70 to 80 miles per hour.
Wow.
And there was a horse in the road. So we did hit the horse.
Oh my gosh.
There's no bounce with animals, so it did feel kind of like hitting a brick wall. I was in my early 20s, so, my first instinct is there's no blood. Like, I'm not bleeding. I have to be fine. So I declined ER visit.
Wow.
And all that. And I just didn't have the money. I was like, I'm not able to go to ER. I just started working 3 months ago. And I felt like, I must have just had some whiplash. And this is all speculation, but that is one of the incidences in my past that my doctors think was kind of the start of my CCI, likely.
And what is CCI?
It's cranio-cervical instability. Basically, the ligaments that hold the skull to the spine are loose. So there's excessive movement, which can cause, a lot of issues. At the time, it didn't cause all the issues I have now. Otherwise, clearly something would have been done about it earlier. But being that young, I was like 22. I was like, I'm going to be fine. Like, I have some neck pain. I have a headache, whatever. I ended up going to the doctor the next day. They gave me painkillers. So naturally, again, thought everything was fine because I was taking painkillers. I got home and I kind of started having chronic neck pain. From there, I just was a lot of, I had to get MRI. Nothing was really showing up as wrong. They just said probably whiplash, mild concussion. And I did PT. I tried massages. Like, I was doing all the things. Eventually just kind of learned to live with it, and things got better within about 2 years. I just had some residual leftover pain. So like anytime it would rain, the base of my skull would throb and I would get really bad migraines. And I had never really had any type of headache or migraine issues prior to that. And I ended up getting a radio frequency ablation, which is where they go in and they burn the nerves along your cervical spine.
Wow.
And so I did that twice. But again, at that point, I was maybe like 24, 25. I was like, I'm not going to keep, like, this is very unnatural. I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life if I have to do this every year. So I just kind of learned to say no to activities that would make that flare up. And I kind of did like chiropractic care and massages, like other conservative things. And from there, I think it got good enough. Like, I had pain, but it was just random. And that's how it was for about 10 to 11 years. After my car wreck, I also was put on a beta blocker. So my heart rate all of a sudden was elevated. I ended up being in like a constant state of tachycardia. So again, my doctors now kind of speculate that perhaps I had had POTS all along and it was just very mild. Yeah.
Okay.
So all these years of, it's anxiety.
Yeah.
Might have actually just been POTS. So.
And what is POTS? What does that stand for?
It's postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And people think it's just heart rate related, but it's so much more than that. It can really range in how severe it can be. You can have someone who's so mild, they don't need any medication. It's, they might just feel a little winded sometimes or dizzy, to someone being completely bedridden and unable to function at all, because it's more a neurological issue than a heart issue. But cardiologists typically diagnose it because that's the one main symptom that everyone has in common, is you get a increase of heart rate on standing.
Do you have any sense of like, what's that heart rate? Because I think well, you could tell me, I might be wrong. But I would imagine normal resting heart rate for folks at sitting is like around 70.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty healthy heart rate. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it for you at like, what was the elevation like for you? What were those numbers?
So back then it was, again, more mild. I was just kind of more in the 100 to 120 range, which...
Like no exercise?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So the beta blocker helped. Beta blockers are actually for blood pressure, but does by proxy lower your heart rate. And it did not take a very high dose for me. So At that rate, I could just function. I was still able to work out, hike, travel, do all these things. Just kind of had those residual symptoms that I was like, well, it must have just been some damage from the whiplash, and that's just how it's going to be.
Gosh. I mean, that's just so much. Even in those, so for 10, 11 years, you said you sort of maintained this good enough status, right? Like you weren't feeling great. You weren't feeling super, I don't know if energetic's the right word, but you were making it. Like it wasn't your ideal state, but you obviously had like a pain in your neck. You had dizziness. You had elevated heart rate, like things that make daily life not enjoyable, at least I would imagine. And that's a lot in itself. But then what kind of changed after those 10 to 11 years? What happened?
I mean, last year it was honestly, it felt like a light switch went off in my body, but it kind of like, I was just telling my friend yesterday, we were talking about this, and I said, it reminds me of like a cat or a lion, like hunting its prey. Like I had very, very mild symptoms that started picking up sometime in late spring, early summer of last year. And they were so mild that like I knew something felt off. And that was what I would tell people. I said, I just feel off. Like something feels different and I can't put my finger on it. It's kind of how I would describe it. And imagine this happening over the course of, I guess, like, I don't know the exact moment I started feeling off, but I'm going to say like April to October. In the course of that time, I had just a general off feeling, and I have had maybe like 3 to 4 instances where I had a weird episode that really got me kind of scared. And it made me contact my primary care doctor. And I was like, well, maybe I just need to get like some blood work, reassess. Like, I'm probably just stressed. I traveled a lot this year. I worked, I changed jobs, all these things that I was kind of making excuses for it.
What was like an example of an episode that scared you?
I was sitting at my desk working and I fell sideways out of it. I know it
sounds scary.
Pretty bizarre. That was the one that really was like, I was like, something's wrong, but I can't figure it out because it's not happening enough for me to really tell. Because it would be like a snap of a finger. Like I was working and all of a sudden my brain kind of felt like someone just rattled it. And like it maybe lost oxygen or something for a second. And I fell out and and then it was gone. Like it never happened. And I got back in the chair, kind of like looking around, feeling like this was weird. I was kind of like, did I just have like a mini stroke of some sort? I even texted my sister, like, do you ever feel like you're having mini strokes? I have the text. Because it like scared me. And then there was another instance where this was when my heat intolerance started picking up. Very hot here in Arizona.
I was going to say that's a bad mixture, being in Arizona and having a heat intolerance.
Yeah. So I kind of generally started noticing that when I would get hot, I mean, it wouldn't just be like I'm hot. I would feel like I was being incinerated and like I couldn't cool off, and I would feel very sick. So I ran to a store. And I remember like in the car, I was just sweating profusely. I was like, man, I cannot cool off. I have the AC on blast. I was like, okay, I'm going to go in the store. It's always cold in the stores. So I'm up in the store trying to cool off, walking around, and all of a sudden my heart rate just skyrockets. Like it goes so high, so fast that my vision blurs. I call my friend and she says I'm kind of slurry when I'm talking. Like she could tell something was wrong, and she told me to go find someone. So I went and found someone in the store and asked him for some water and if I could lay down. And so I went and laid down in one of the dressing rooms and propped my legs up. And they brought me like candy and brought me cold water, kind of being like, okay, this will pass. Eventually it passed. One of my friends picked me up, but you know, that one was a little bit longer. And I was like, that was really weird. I got my cardiology referral. I had my neurology referral. So I was just like, all right, we got to figure this out. But, you know, never did I think it would turn into this.
Yeah. And even those incidents, that's terrifying. Both of those things are terrifying. Did you feel almost the sense of like, am I going crazy?
Yeah. I mean, especially when they would at that point be so like random, like it would just kind of come out of nowhere. And then I would be like normal working. Like one of the times before one of my hospital visits, the day before I was on a treadmill on an incline. I walked for 45 minutes and my heart rate didn't exceed 140. The next day, I ended up at the ER for the day. It just kind of really caught me off guard. And it was crazy.
So then you have this period where over those months, like April to October, you have these incidents happening that are kind of scary. What happened after that? How did things progress after that?
After that, it was really fast. So kind of like at that point, the lion has seen its prey and I'm its prey. So it just escalated. So I mentioned the first ER visit after my whole treadmilling thing. So one of my friends, she came over in the morning that day. And when she got here, I was like, oh, like my chest is hurting. I was like, I have this spot on my rib that is killing me when I inhale. And we just kind of laughed it off. I kept cooking. And so she lives in the same complex as me. So she runs back to her apartment to change. And I decide to go get ready as well. And then I'm in the closet grabbing my clothes. And all of a sudden, that same feeling I had when I was at the store, my body started profusely sweating. My vision got blurry. My heart started racing and I felt like I was going to vomit. So I went and got like in the fetal position on the bed and was just kind of like, try to remain calm. Like I was really trying to convince myself, you're just anxious, like chill out. And so I kind of was just doing my box breathing and I couldn't calm it down. So I started like shaking and I called my husband. He tried to calm me down and I was like, I'm just going to call my friend and see if she'll come back because I feel really scared being here alone.
Was he traveling at the time?
Yes, he was on a work trip.
Gotcha.
And so I call my friend and she's like, yeah, I'll come by. And when she gets there, I'm in the living room, like in a ball. I'm taking my blood pressure. She says I look very pale. And I was just like, I don't feel good. Something's wrong. She was like, this is not anxiety. You've had anxiety. I've had anxiety. This is not anxiety. But when you have so many doctors telling you that, like you start to just tell yourself that's what it is. And so at that point, we were like, should we go to the ER? Like, this is not going away. My chest is hurting. Like, it felt like someone had drop kicked me in the chest, like the pressure I was having. So she took me to the ER and my heart rate was it was kind of staying around like 140s, 145. And it would just kind of like go up and go down and go up and go down. And it was just, I felt so sick. And yeah, I was there for the day. They just kind of were like, keep taking your heart meds. They checked to make sure I didn't have a blood clot. And then, yeah, I think they gave me an IV version of the heart medicine that I typically take to just lower it faster. And from there, I was just told, keep your follow-up appointments. You have one in 5 days. Everything's going to be good. And I was like, okay. Everything's okay. I didn't have a heart attack because I was honestly thinking maybe I am having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And in that span of, I think it's 10 to 11 days, I had my husband called 911 to our house one night. And then I had another ER visit as well. And both of which, like we called 911. It was after I ate. So this was when I started presenting with issues after eating. So it was like little by little, my capabilities were getting smaller and smaller. So this one kind of happened after I ate and my heart rate went up, my blood pressure went up. Then I started developing the tremors. I had never had tremors before, but my whole body was shaking. And they were like, are you cold? I'm like, no, I'm not cold. My body just won't stop shaking. They had said, well, maybe you should go to the ER, but we had already been. And I was like, they're not going to do anything for me. So we just stayed home. And I really convinced myself again that it was just anxiety, because again, that's what a lot of people were telling me. So we even decided to go to Flagstaff the next day to be in the leaves, enjoy, like go to a pumpkin patch, get my mind off things. We thought it would just calm my nervous system down.
Yeah.
And I was okay-ish for a day. I was having to really take like extra medication to lower my heart rate. And I was even Benadryling myself. Not proud to say, just to like calm my body because I just felt so wired. And then the next day on our way home, I ended up having another episode in the car ride home. And we ended up going to another emergency room and kind of the same thing. They just were like, well, you did an EKG. You're not having a heart attack. The doctor was, honestly, he was a little bit of a jerk. He just told my husband, she loses consciousness for a full minute. That's when you should come back. And I looked at my husband and I was like, you're not waiting for me to be passed out for a full minute before you call
No.
911. Like if I pass out, you're calling 911 because I'm having a lot of weird stuff going on. Don't let me die.
And also passing out is not normal. So you should always go to the ER if you pass out.
I'm very shocked at the doctor. I don't know. I'm very shocked at him saying this because this was actually a heart hospital. So in the beginning, we thought this was very cardiac related because that's how it was presenting. Those were like my first symptoms, was cardiac related symptoms. And yeah, for him to say, bring her back and just pass out for a full minute seems very dismissive. But yeah, at that point we did go home, and I was just like, it is what it is. Like, I don't know what this is, but hopefully we'll figure it out. And I finally get to the day of my hospitalization. So yeah, after that, it was about 10 days from that first ER visit till my actual hospitalization. By the time I made it, I was dangling by a thread. Like, I hadn't eaten in probably 3 to 4 days. So I was super, super weak because anytime I would eat, I would have these episodes, and I was starting to have trouble swallowing. I would feel very sick. My husband made me like bone broth. I was up all night sick just from drinking bone broth. Like my body couldn't digest anything. And that night I ended up having like a neurological episode like all night. I didn't know it at the time what was happening, but my neck would like stiffen. And I was just getting a lot of nerve pain in my body, and my body was trembling the whole night. And so in the morning, by the time we made it, this sounds very dramatic, but I was like scooting in the house on my butt because I could not tolerate standing. Like when I would stand, I would feel like this immense like pressure in my chest, in my head. It felt like my head was like losing blood flow, or it just felt very heavy. So my husband carried me to the car just so he could take me to the appointments. Then he calls him. He's like, she's not going to be able to walk in. Like, we need a wheelchair. So they came and wheeled me in. I was like hysterical at this point. I was sobbing. My body was like shaking, and I started developing one of my, what would become a more dominant symptom. It's like some sort of spasm that would make me snort, and I would struggle to breathe while the spasm was occurring. And at the time it was happening just every so often. So, I mean, I could still breathe and everything was fine, but it was kind of scary. The cardiologist saw me. He was very much like, something is clearly wrong. I can see, but he's like, this is not cardiac related. I think you're going to have more success with neurology. So we go to my neurology appointment, and she, I mean, who knows what she's actually like. She could be a good doctor, but she was very just like, she looked at my legs and she was like, you can walk, like physically, because she made me walk. So I showed her and walked in the room, and she was like, well, you don't have Guillain-Barré, so I can't admit you. Because we were begging at that point. We were like, please admit me. Something's wrong. I've lost over 10% of my body weight. I feel like I'm going to die at this point. Like, I was at that point where I was like, I feel like I'm going to die if you don't help me. And yeah, she was just like, well, it's not Guillain-Barré, so, you know, we'll schedule you an MRI and some vestibular testing and things like that. But they were going to be weeks, possibly even like a month out.
Wow.
So I was very distraught that day. I went home like sobbing because I was just like, I'm not going to make it a month. Like, I'm going to be dead before a month hits. And I just went home, and I feel like I was just very defeated that day because I was like, they're going to wait till I get so sick that I am about to die. And they're going to, at that point, be like, oh no, we wish we could save her, but we can't. Maybe I was catastrophizing at that point, but it felt,
I mean, if nobody's
like
listening, if you've gone all this time with severe, like, those aren't mild symptoms.
Yeah.
Those are severe symptoms, and they're not common. So it is a little terrifying to think, like, I don't think you're catastrophizing. You're telling people something's wrong over and over and over. People around you are saying something's wrong over and over and over, and nobody's listening.
Yeah. And that's what we would also like reiterate. Like, this is very unlike me. I'm a very active person. This is not how I normally am. I actually feel like I'm going to die. So that night, finally admitted, and I thought like all my problems were about to come to an end. I was like, thank goodness, like, they're going to figure this out now. But they did blood work that showed I was basically in a state of starvation because I hadn't been able to eat. I was having, I can't remember the term, but it's a certain type of breathing you do when your body starts starving, I guess, and then the spasms. And then I think they did seizure testing, CT scan, and then they just admitted me to a general floor the first night. They drug me up. I sleep I think all is well. Because the next morning I was like, oh, I'm going to meet the neurology team and they're going to figure this out.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, that was not the case. The next day, I ended up having 2 really bad episodes, and they finally kind of correlated me getting up with my episodes because they were originally kind of spaced further out. Like I got up the first time and walked around the nurse's station. I had an episode an hour later. The next one, when it passed, I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom. I then instantly had an episode and they put me on bed rest at that point. And during that episode, the hospitalist saw me and she was like, you know, your body's kind of like doing crazy things. You kind of look at what people's faces are to see what level of worried you should be. And I remember like seeing her eyes because obviously she's like in a mask and she looked worried, which made me feel worried.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that point she was like, how long has she been like this? We need to put her on a different floor. And she called the rapid response team. And they then took me up to a higher floor, the neurology floor, for higher observation. And it was one of my scariest episodes because, I think that one made me think I was having a brain aneurysm or something because it was like someone snapped their finger and I had hot, like flushing lava sensation in my brain, and it felt like my skull was going to crack open. And then I was having super heightened senses. I felt like Superwoman. I could smell everything, feel everything. It was like everything was too much. Yeah, I ended up on the neurology floor. At the point all my family comes because they're like, okay, this is getting serious. She's been, rapid response to this floor. Once again, we were like, we're going to figure this out. We're on a better floor now. They're going to run all the tests. Also was not the case. So we did a lot more testing. They thought for a while I had a CSF leak because one of the episodes when I stood, my ears leaked fluid. And that can sometimes be a symptom of a cranial CSF leak, which is your cerebral spinal fluid, in case people are like, what is that? And they also had me do a standing EEG test, which was really dreaded one for me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that one we actually recorded because I had gotten tired of every time a doctor would come in there, they would ask me to stand up to watch. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, it's getting worse every time. And that EEG test, I was very scared because I had to stand for a full 5 minutes, which...
Oh, that's terrifying. Yeah.
Kind of crazy to think like standing 5 minutes shouldn't be that hard, but that felt like huge. And that one was a bit traumatic. So my family recorded it just so that we could show it to doctors anytime they would ask, especially the ones who would act like, they walk in, they see you look healthy. Your vitals are normal when you're laying down. Everything's fine. Like, what are you talking about? You're sick. But yeah, the standing EEG test was very bad. I think I just had like a little bit of an out-of-body experience. I sat up and my heart rate instantly was around 150 to 160. Laying in bed, it was in the 80s. So it's quite a big jump. And it would happen immediately. And so they had me sit up for like 1 minute and then I had to stand for 5. And Hans was holding me just so I would, in case I would like pass out or something. And honestly, in the video, I feel like I look quite calm. But yeah, I was standing and I feel like I was partially there. Like, I feel like I was just kind of observing myself. All those things were happening. And then they asked me to start hyperventilating. And that was kind of when it got really bad. Then I lost bladder control. And that's when I lost it. Like, I started basically yelling for them, like, put me down. Like, I want to sit down. I need to sit down. I'm peeing on myself. That was kind of when I realized, wait a second. I had to think about what that was. Like, I was like, what is that warm stuff on my leg? Like, and I remember kind of feeling it like go down my leg and being like, I think I'm peeing on myself. And the fact that I couldn't feel it really scared me because I was just like, how did this happen? 10 days ago, I was on a treadmill and now my heart rate's 180 when I'm standing and I'm peeing on myself and my brain feels like it's being like vacuumed down into my spinal column. It was very weird, but ultimately it didn't really lead anywhere. They couldn't really figure out what was wrong. They wanted to get me out of the hospital, obviously. And so they ended up doing a blind blood patch, which is to patch a CSF leak. So I had a blood patch procedure, and that got me to where I could sit up for 15 minutes. Prior to that, I was completely orthostatic intolerant. Like, if you leaned me above 20 degrees, I would have one of those episodes.
Oh my goodness.
And then, the blood patch somehow threw something off in my body that I was able to sit up for 15 minutes. I felt quite horrible doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the hospital's eyes, they're like, all right, you can sit up long enough to go pee at your house, so we're going to discharge you. So at that point, I was discharged.
I want to pause here for a second because I know some of you listening are going to relate to this next part. You've built a good life. You're showing up for everyone else, kids, partner, work, friends, and you've done all the right things to take care of yourself. The journaling, the workouts, the books, and yet you're still tired, still anxious, still feeling like you're running on fumes. If that's you, hear me now. You are not failing. You're just stuck in survival mode, and no amount of doing is going to work until your nervous system feels safe. That's exactly what you'll work on inside the Courageous Living group from Janice Holland. She's also known as the trauma teacher. She's a licensed psychotherapist and certified trauma model therapist who helps high-functioning individuals finally find relief. The Courageous Living Group is a 60-day nervous system reset for people who are done over-functioning, people-pleasing, and holding it all together. This group reset includes 8 weekly group sessions that are live, but are also recorded in case you can't attend the live sessions. You'll have lifetime access to the course portal, including replays, weekly journal prompts with integration practices, somatic healing tools, and a private WhatsApp group chat for support. Because you don't need to do more. You need to feel safe enough to receive the life you've already built. Click the link in the show notes below to get started. I can't even wrap my brain around how someone would discharge you.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy because I think I used to always think like they won't send you home that severe, right? Maybe you go home sick, but I just didn't think when you were that severe that they would just send you home, because I feel like it was basically I was in an autonomic crisis. Like the most fundamentally basic things were no longer working because it was just my smell was off. I would taste metal in my mouth. Lights flickering would like startle me. Sounds. I was so hypersensitive to noise.
Well, and the fact that you were in starvation mode, like you can't eat.
Yeah.
I mean,
they basically had me drinking like protein shakes, eating whatever I could. And then once that was, all right, you're not starving anymore and you can sit up, because we were trying to do a hospital transfer. Like we really wanted this to get figured out because it was so hard to get admitted in the first place. So we really wanted a transfer, but the transfers just didn't work out. And that's why they called someone in to do that blind blood patch on me, because I don't think they could legally, I could be wrong, but I don't think they could legally let me leave when I couldn't sit up at all. And we certainly weren't going to sign the papers for me to be discharged at that point. So it was interesting. And we even had to request a new neurologist while we were there, because he came in, and we had a really good team at first, but then they cycle out, or they do 5 days on, 5 days off or something. And the new neurologist came in, and he instantly was like, I think this is like psychosomatic, basically. And my dad's like, so you think she's making this up? And his example, verbatim, still very bizarre that he said this to me, he thought I had conversion disorder, which he described as a little boy who didn't want to go to school the next day because he didn't do his homework. So the next day when he woke up, his legs weren't working. His brain solved the problem. He doesn't have to go to school anymore. And I was just like, what? I literally was like, that's crazy. And I just had nothing else to say to him. Like my family said, every time he came in the room, I would just not even acknowledge him, because I was like, you don't believe me, and I'm wasting my energy talking to you.
Also, what the actual hell? I know what conversion disorder is, and how you can jump from that to that is mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you, first of all, like, what am I running from so far? And like, how do you fake these symptoms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, I have nothing. I mean,
yeah,
it's scary. It's terrifying to imagine that the people that are supposed to be saving you aren't listening. They don't believe you.
Yeah.
And they are saying it's psychosomatic. This might be a question out of left field, but do you wonder, because my brain goes, if you were a man
Yeah.
who came in with those symptoms,
Yeah.
do you think he would have said that to you?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like women easily get it's anxiety, it's your period a
It's your,
lot quicker
yeah.
than a man does. So yeah, it was because my stepmom even said that. And I feel like they're very like conservative. They don't maybe
Mm-hmm.
really follow too many of the man woman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like she was like 100% he was saying that because she's a female. Like she's thin, looks healthy. And so he thinks she's making all this up. And I just lost respect for him. And I was like, I'm
As
sure
you should.
you might be a good doctor to some
No.
people, but just because you're like, I hate that just because you don't know what it is doesn't mean I'm making it up. Put me
Yes.
in someone else's hands. Like if it's outside your knowledge and you're like, wow, I have no idea what's going on. I would rather hear a doctor say that and try to help me, like maybe point me in the direction of someone to see rather than being like, hey, I don't know what this is, so it has to be anxiety or it has to be conversion disorder. I don't think I would be on this floor
No.
being like this if it was conversion disorder, but that's just me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So you requested another neurologist, and then were you discharged, or what happened after that to get you to the point of actually like getting some answers?
So really, the hospital didn't do much. So we got a new neurologist, and the new neurologist was basically just communicating with us about finding someone to do this blood patch. And then the next day, once I was able to sit up like 15 minutes, we signed the discharge papers because they also were just kind of like removing care at this point. Like they were taking my IV, they were no longer checking my blood glucose or anything like that. So we were like, they've tapped out on what they can do. I think ideally we would have loved to have been able to transfer to Mayo, but that didn't work out. So we got referrals to Barrow's Neurology Institute is here, which is supposed to be like a really good place. So we were like, okay, well, now I'm outpatient and these appointments are really, really slow. So I finally had my neurology appointment and they're very much still on the CSF leak POTS train. They were like, we think you have POTS, but POTS a lot of times can show up from other conditions kind of causing it. And they believed that I had a leak that was then causing the dysautonomia. And my neurologist referred me to a POTS doctor. She's very good. I'm glad I ended up getting in with her. Actually, like 10 out of 10 doctor, love her. I mean, I got out November 2nd, I think, from the hospital, and she was booked till April. I was like, I cannot lay here like this till
No.
April. Like
No.
how is this life? But that's kind of what it was we were in the outpatient world where everything, I mean, it would take months to get an MRI. And all really what we would do is we would just call, like be the squeaky wheel, call all the time, asking about cancellations. Because sure, you can get put on a cancellation list, but
It's not the
do
same.
you
Yeah.
really want to trust that they're going to call you back? It was a really hard phase because like things like an MRI machine, the noises, the vibrations, the heat that it brings out, I had episodes in them. So,
And you're supposed to be still, right?
yeah, so they couldn't perform it. So then I had to reschedule. And that was pretty heartbreaking because, me and my husband and stepmom were there for my 5 a.m. MRI. I'm like, finally, maybe we'll find the leak. Maybe we'll get answers. This nightmare can be over. And then I couldn't make it through. So I was sobbing because I felt upset at myself and I felt upset that my whole family, their life was on pause too.
Yeah.
And then we did the same for my POTS doctor. We just called all the time to get in as quickly as possible to get answers, really, though. I originally just came home and joined a bunch of support groups online, like any condition I was suspicious of. And I wasn't necessarily joining them for the support. I just wanted to see, what do your symptoms sound like? And you can like post your story, post what your symptoms are, and get people commenting and coming up with ideas. You kind of have to take a little bit of it with a grain of salt because there can be some pretty bogus ideas. But I did that. And then from there, I started compiling a list of things people would talk about, of conditions, and I would start researching those conditions. And I had a list of all my symptoms and I would kind of compare. And ChatGPT really came in handy with that one because I had my list of suspicious conditions and all of my symptoms. And because I felt, one, I struggled with screens. So I really didn't have the time to just stare at the screen so much. And so I put it in there and I was like, hey, can you tell me, based on my symptoms, what the most likely conditions are that I have out of this list? And I mean, the top 5, I have it.
Yeah.
So that from there, I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to now find doctors that treat these conditions. So all the while, I'm still being worked up for POTS, being worked up for the CSF leak. But I just had a gut feeling that it was something with my neck just because of the way some of my symptoms were progressing. And my range of motion at that point was completely gone.
So when did you finally know what it was?
Well, it was 2 moments. Like, we knew I likely had POTS, but we got the POTS confirmation in February, which, even though we knew we had it, just like hearing it is pretty validating. You're like, okay, now I know at least one thing that I'm working with. So yeah, I got diagnosed with hyperadrenic POTS. And then around March, I really started pursuing the CCI route.
On your own, based on your own research and what you had done.
Yes. So I kind of had heard about these upper cervical chiropractors. I'm like, okay, what is this? I had never heard of it before. And they are much different than like a regular chiropractor. They don't do any bending, cracking, twisting, or anything like that. And because I wanted someone that was going to be really safe, because I was like, something is wrong with my neck. Like, I feel like I'm choking and it's breaking all the time. And so I ended up finding a NUCA chiropractor here locally. And at the point when I went to him, I was maybe only able to sit up 3 hours a day, and I was still 100% in my wheelchair. And I was still having neurological episodes like what I was having in the hospital every day, at least 1 to 2 times a day.
My gosh.
So it was quite a nightmarish 7 months.
It's a long time.
Yes, the days felt very long.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of popcorn on my ceiling. So yeah, I go to him and I start seeing him. And that's kind of when I really started to think, I think it's my neck, because a month into seeing him, I started having progress. I started being able to sit up for 15 minutes to eat dinner at night. I had not been able to sit up past maybe 2 to 3 p.m. at any point without causing an episode. So sometimes something as little as transferring from the couch to the bed at night before we would go to sleep would cause me to have an episode, and then I would have a 2-hour episode right before bed. So you like go to bed all traumatized and sweaty. And yeah, about 2 months into seeing him, I stopped having those autonomic storms. I wasn't having these big episodes anymore. So I then really went down that CCI route, and my chiropractor at the time was like, maybe you don't have CCI, but we'll see. We'll give it a couple more months. But all the while, I was still pursuing getting seen by a guy named Dr. Centeno in Denver, Colorado. He reviewed my images, and I believe it was end of April. We were actually en route to go to Mayo Rochester for some testing, and he confirmed it. And it was like a really bittersweet moment, because I was like, I knew it. Like, I knew something was wrong with my neck. And yeah, he diagnosed it. He also was like, I can even see in your MRI, one of your muscles on the right side of your neck is like 3 times the size of the one on the left side. And it shows that your body for a long time has been trying to compensate with this instability. So, because more of my instability is on my right side, like when I lean my head over, it slides that way. And there's overhang. So at that point, we set up a procedure with him like same day, because I was just like, finally, there's a path forward. This is what I've been waiting for all along. Texted all my doctors. I'm like, we found, like, we know what it is now. It was really bittersweet. It was scary because CCI can have, again, a wide range, much like POTS. There are people who get so bad that they'll get a fusion and they still don't get relief, and they will be bedridden. You know, people go to dark places on those support group pages, like for assisted suicide and things like that, because it's like they get very bad. And then you can have very high functioning people. At that point, I was very low functioning, like on Dr. Centeno's scale. He kind of categorized me as highly centrally sensitized, like a fragile egg, basically. And then, yeah, from there, we scheduled my procedure for June 30th. And yeah, now a month out.
So that's more than a year. right? I mean, since your
Technically,
first symptoms started, since you felt
yes.
off to the
Yeah.
point where you got a diagnosis and some sort of treatment, that's a year of pain, a disorientation, of
Yeah.
probably questioning yourself, but
Yeah.
also going, something's wrong, and like having to push to be seen and taken seriously. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much. And how have things been since the procedure?
So the procedure's kind of a long game. Like they
Hmm.
typically say 2 to 4 months because it's stem cells.
Hmm.
So it's a very like slow process. He calls it disorganized healing. And I will say it does feel a lot like that.
Hmm.
So the first week I was in a lot of pain. It was a
Yeah.
lot more painful of a procedure than I anticipated. I knew it would be painful, but it was like if I moved, it would like take my breath away pain. But after that procedure, a week later, it was like I was on a boat in a storm. And then I kind of went through their honeymoon period where you feel kind of stable. Like I was like,
Hmm.
my head feels like it's where it's supposed to be and it doesn't feel like it's like moving so much and my symptoms just weren't as bad and I kind of for a moment remembered a little bit of who I was. I was like,
Mm.
this is nice. I
Uh,
really like this. And then I had a really unstable phase for about a week, but now I actually feel scared to say again that I
yeah.
feel like there's been progress. So much so that I put a note in my phone to email him because I wanted to talk to him about how much
Hmm.
progress there had been and how thankful I am.
Hmm.
He's the only That's the only clinic in the world that is doing what he's doing, and without that, what my life could be like was yeah, it would be very scary.
I imagine. And when you think about all these things, what do you feel like this experience has sort of taught you about your body, about health, about resilience?
Well, one of the things that I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but a lot of the things I would think during the process was how incredible it is that our bodies do what they do.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
my body was, like, not doing some of the most, to me, fundamentally basic things, and I was like, "Why can't I stand up? Why can't I strain?" Lifting my leg could cause an episode. I wore a necklace, it caused an episode just from the sensation on my skin. Just all these things, it was kind of like I would watch people while I was laying down, like, move about the house and do things and turn their head fast, and I was kind of amazed at what we're able to do. And also on the flip side, since I experienced my body not functioning,
Mhm.
I was also a bit scared of what it was capable of. I was like, our bodies are actually capable of feeling a lot, like
Mhm.
not only just pain, but like our senses, how much I don't know if it's our brain or what, it filters out noises enough, light enough, all
Mhm.
these things so that we're able to just go about our day without any problems. And when it's not doing that, noises can be painful. Light can just, send your body over the edge. Like all these basic things. I think it was just an in awe moment, but also
Mhm.
like, this is kind of terrifying. You're a little bit scary,
Yeah.
body. I didn't know you could do this.
Yeah, yeah. You sort of even touched on it there, but what about emotionally, mentally, when you think about the bothness of it, right? Like, what were you feeling then or now just about, I would imagine, fear, but also gratefulness, but also limitations, yet strength because you're getting strength back. So
Mhm.
how did sort of that tension of the multiple things show up for you mentally, emotionally?
There were quite a few. So I feel like in the beginning, especially once I was home and there just wasn't much movement. I mean, I was having appointments like once a month at that point.
Mhm.
And, I'm having these episodes every day, feeling like I'm
Mm.
actually dying every single time. And I feel like I went through a phase where I kind of started getting a little bit dark. And I would tell my husband, like, I cannot keep living like this. There was no part of me that wanted to die. And I actually feel like I have a bit of a fear towards dying because there's
Mhm.
a lot of unknowns. But at the same time, I was like, I just want this to be over. I don't want to wake up tomorrow because I don't want to feel like this tomorrow. And I don't want to
Mhm.
keep having to be, people telling you like you're strong, you're so brave. Like I'm glad that I have that support, but on the flip side, you're like, oh, I don't want to be strong anymore. I'm
Mhm.
tired.
Mhm.
I want to give up. But
Mhm.
knowing you can't give up because like I knew if I gave up, I wouldn't get answers. It's kind of like exhausted.
Yeah, and that I mean, I would imagine that tension between I have to keep fighting and I'm so sick of fighting, but I have to
Yeah.
keep fighting and I want to live, but also I don't want this.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were recurring thoughts. I went through a
Mhm.
phase where I was like, it was weird how I'd go through like different phases like every few months. And I think I also
Mhm.
had dread because I knew I would have to wake up tomorrow and have episodes again and deal
Mhm.
with them again. And just I felt like a prisoner in my body. I felt
Mhm.
stuck and I just was like, oh, just function, stop being
Mhm.
like this. And I was trying to do everything I could, which was quite limited at the time because, yeah, it started with just 15 minutes of sitting up a day. The rest of the time I was in bed. And yeah, you just are like, want to give up.
Mhm.
But if I give up, I know at that point I knew my doctors. I was like, they're not going to figure this out. Like
Mhm.
this is not an in the box condition, kind of like having that realization that you're your own best advocate and doctors only know what they know.
Mhm.
And if they don't know what it is, like you got to find someone who does. Cause when you find the doctor that does everything you're saying, they'll be like, yeah,
Makes
a lot of
sense.
people say that.
Mhm.
It's what they all experience. And you just feel finally the relief instead of, being called a complex case or being like, I know something's wrong with you. I just don't know what it is. I'm so sorry. I wish I could help you. And you're just left
Mm.
like that.
Is there any part of you this is what I would have done. I would rub it in their face, but those like especially the doctor at the ER who was like, it's conversion syndrome. I would go back and be like, really? Let me show you all this.
Pulls out all the medical records.
I would put them on blast.
I'm so glad you said that because, yes, I talk about that all the time. I'm like, sometimes I just want to call them up and
You
tell them like
should.
exactly what it is. And then the good doctors I have that are like part of my team, I've also just told them what it is because I was like, in case you ever see someone
These
describing the
symptoms. Yeah.
symptoms that I have, this is what I did because I would prefer someone to not have to suffer like this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and kind of as we wrap up, when you think about the tension in all of these phases, right? Like, oh my gosh, so much tension, so much paradox and duality of it's so hard but grateful, and all these things that you've talked about. What helps you navigate the unsteadiness, the conflict or contradiction within your own self? Like, what helped you navigate that then and still now?
I feel like, well, one, I'm still like kind of processing a lot of it because I do feel like when you when you're like that bad where nothing in your body is working and you're just sick, like very sick,
Mm-hmm.
you get very primal. Like, my focus was not really so much how I felt, it was just getting better, making it through the day,
Mm-hmm.
making it through the next hour, and I'm a very future thinker typically, but for this type of thing, I had to really force myself to just think about today. And that's not to say I didn't slip up and think about the future, but, like, when I would, it was very, very overwhelming, and it was just too much. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't picture a future like this, or if I do, I need to figure out a way that I can make a good future if I'm not gonna be able to do the things that I thought maybe I could have done at one point in my life.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably a relief, but also hard to come back into letting yourself get to that next level. So, like when you think
Mhm,
about, in psychology, they talk about the hierarchy of needs. And so when
mhm,
you're talking about, I was here at this primal level, which makes so much sense.
mhm.
And now as you're in your healing process a little bit further on, is it kind of hard to get back to connecting with those higher levels of like, wait a second, how am I feeling? Let
Yeah.
me reconnect with like my mind and emotions and thoughts. And has that been harder to kind of get back into that space as you heal?
I feel like it is because, like you said in the beginning, it is very primal. Like you're just trying to survive. That's all I was really thinking about was get through the
Yeah.
day, find a
Yeah.
diagnosis, get the treatment. I didn't have time to entertain much else. And I feel like the hard part is that with healing or even with declines, it's changing, which means you have to adapt to this new thing. So
Mm.
any change, whether it's good or bad, like adapting to that, trying to figure out what my new limitations are, and also now kind of having a little bit more space to process what happened. And
Mhm.
maybe my more recent struggle has been I feel like I was in these groups of people who all have the same conditions as me, and I found people who were about as bad off as me. And you kind of, as you heal, start to gaslight yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of struggling with that where I'm like, were you making all this up? You
Hmm.
crazy person? Because I
Yeah.
feel like your brain is really, really talented at trying to
Hmm.
forget painful things. And then I maybe feel a bit guilty that I'm making progress too. Like I'm very happy I am, but I feel like I've gone from asking why me, but in different situations, like when I was like that bad and I would see all my friends or family living a normal life. And I would be like, well, why me? Like, why did I have to
Yeah.
get this sick? Why do I have to go through this? Why does this have to be my life?
Hmm.
And then now, as I'm seeing progress and I have people that I know that are still suffering like how I was in the beginning, and now I think like, well, why me? Why would I get to get better? I mean, I know I'm not I might be jumping the gun because it might just be like I'm having better days after this procedure and I still have far to go, but you kind of feel guilty that you would get to be one of the ones that gets better. And once you know that kind of suffering, you know what they're going through.
A lot to process. And so many layers and so many it's physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody maybe who's not even experiencing the same illness as you, but who's going through something similar? What would you say to them?
So many things. I mean, I feel like number one is if you're getting sick or you feel like something's wrong, keep pursuing. If you have some doctors that say it's not, that doesn't mean there's nothing wrong. It just means they don't know what's wrong. Don't stop advocating for yourself. Don't stop fighting to find answers. Find your people. Finding people who are going through similar is comforting
Hmm.
because they will understand you in ways that other people won't. And then also being okay with leaning on people,
Hmm.
very independent person. So going from traveling
Yeah.
all over the world to then quite literally having people put a diaper on you or something like
Hmm.
it can be hard, but be okay with people helping you.
How can people get involved? How can people support you? How can people support others with this condition? Because I would imagine there's a significant amount of medical costs and probably a lot of it's not covered by insurance. And so how can people support you and or others who are going through these really difficult conditions?
I think honestly, for me, I am trying to probably obnoxiously overshare on my platform. So I use Instagram a lot and I've designed awareness shirts. And I
Mhm.
know that's not going to like make some life changing difference. I still haven't figured out what I want to do, but early on I was like once I figure this out, I want to try to raise awareness in some
Mhm.
small way. So sharing my story, sharing about the condition, like, because I also share resources about the condition, just because if the name gets out there, you never know who might see it, who
Mhm.
reads about it and is like, this is me. And now they actually know how to get the treatment because I had never heard of
Me
cervical
neither.
instability before this. But yeah, I think sharing any of the resources that I have that you have on this podcast would help. And then once you've researched that, if you hear someone talking about certain symptoms that maybe sound a bit like that, you could point
Yeah.
them in that direction because it is hard to get diagnosed. There's only 5 surgeons in the world who do elective
Wow.
cranio-cervical instability surgeries. 4 of them are in the US, 1 of them is in Spain. And
Wow.
so a lot of people have to travel all over the world just to get the treatment that I got.
Which with all your symptoms, can you imagine being on a plane and traveling?
And that far, like, I mean, the things that
Wow.
they have to go through. So it's like knowing that people have to fight that hard to find
Mhm.
doctors, figure out who they are. And then those doctors are really booked out because everyone in the world who does have that
Mhm.
condition is going there.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you're not going the surgical route, you have the clinic I went to, which is
Mhm.
one. And they're the only people who can do that. So I think sharing anything that
Mhm.
is on my platform or on your platform about this, or even just if they want to go research this condition themselves and share about it. Because, I mean, it might not make this huge life-changing difference, but if everybody does a little bit, maybe it will not be so uncommon.
And if one person helps to get their symptoms diagnosed or connected to a condition, that is life-changing.
Yeah.
One life touched by this or affected by this is life-changing.
Yeah.
Even just having a community who maybe already has the diagnosis, but hears this being talked about and knows other people are in this space and I'm not alone. I mean, that's life-changing.
That's what I kind of keep hoping I can do for someone is sharing this, that maybe they'll learn about this condition if they've never heard of it. And two, I have linked all my resources, like the doctors I'm seeing, info about what it is, what POTS is, and all that stuff so they can just have it all there.
And I will make sure I will link all that as well. Well, Grace, thank you so much for just being so willing to tell the story and to share your experience and be so vulnerable and say, this is what this was like for me. This is what it's like now. And I think just your strength, your vulnerability, your drive and determination to not take no for an answer is inspiring, especially as a woman, especially to have people tell you over and over, it's not real, you're making it up, and still fight for yourself. And I think that that matters, and that will trickle into other people's lives as well for them to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
So I think just thank you. Thank you so much. And even if one person hears it, and way more than one will hear it. So even if one hears it, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
No, I'm thankful that you had me on the show and gave me the opportunity to share about it. Because I am a bit of an introvert, so I was very scared to do this. It's been on my mind to try to figure out a way to kind of turn this into something good. And to me, the good that can come from this would be being able to help people and shed light on something that I had never heard of myself either.
Yeah. Well, and the last question I have for you that I ask everybody, and it is probably a much lighter question because I know this has been really heavy for you, and thank you for sharing it all. This is completely unrelated, but I ask all my guests, and this could be pre-diagnosis, during, or even now post, but is there anything that you do that is ridiculous, over the top, quirky, silly, ridiculous, but to others might be kind of relatable?
So I'm like a big to-do list person. And I like written to-do lists because I really like scratching something off. Well, sometimes when I haven't been as productive as I've wanted to be, but I did something random, like clean something that maybe wasn't on the list or did a task that wasn't on the list, I'll write it on the list just so I can scratch it off.
I love that. This is such a good one.
I was like, yeah, I'm kind of nerding out on my OCD over here.
That's like a great example because it's a little ridiculous, but also I totally get it because the little adrenaline or the bump that you get from
you're like, you were productive today. Like, look, you did that one thing.
Yeah. Which this is making me think like maybe we should have a pre and a post to-do list. So you have your pre, which is stuff you know, and then you later in the day add multiple
all the things you did.
All the things you did, and you're like, yeah.
It's true. That would be very satisfying.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Grace. And I will make sure and share this and tag you and get all the resources out there. But thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you and sharing my story.
I just want to say thank you so much to Grace for being here with us today, for spending her precious energy just to help others feel less alone. If you want to support Grace and learn more, you can find her Instagram and her Linktree in the show notes below. She shared resources on POTS and cranio-cervical instability, as well as links to others who are currently needing support. So please take a look and amplify these stories where you can. I also wanted to share something else of note. Many of Grace's videos have gone viral, and a few have been reposted and used without her permission to promote unrelated products. If you come across a clip that isn't from her own page, please report it and share the original from her account instead. Protecting someone's story is a part of caring for their healing, and no one deserves for their story to be told without their permission. If this episode resonated with you, it would mean the world to me if you could support the show and help it grow. First, please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts because your words help new listeners to find us. Second, share the episode with someone who might need it. because that's how this community grows, through real people, real stories, and honest conversations shared from one person to another. Finally, make sure you follow the show so you never miss an episode. Just tap the little plus sign or follow button on the main show page. These really are the most impactful things that you can do for the podcast. So thank you again for listening. And this week, take some time to recognize what in your life is full of bothness. And remember, it's okay to feel all the things, because so many times in life, it isn't either or, it's both.